Good morning, all. Myself, Professor Amit Kaurs from Department of Education, Guru Nanak Dev University, Amritsar. And today I'll be talking about one very important topic under course code EDU 216, that's learning and teaching. And the topic which I'm going to cover today is interaction analysis given by Flinders. Basically, this topic is very important from the point of view of understanding the way I'm teaching and trying to get feedback through this mechanism. That mechanism is interaction analysis technique. So once I get the feedback, I'm able to modify my behavior as a teacher. And this technique can be used by any teacher working at any level of education, maybe school level, maybe college, or maybe university level. This is the objective of my presentation today. And during this presentation, I'm going to discuss the concept of teaching, the concept of interaction, concept of interaction analysis, mainly with the focus of interaction analysis technique, which is given by Flender. So those aspects I'll be covering. Along with that, I'll try to cover various categories which are given by Flender for analyzing the whole interaction process. Along with that, encoding process, decoding process, and interpretation of that decoding. Once I have all the encoding and decoding in a particular table, then I can interpret that table for analyzing my interaction and getting feedback for myself for my own improvement as a teacher. So this is the whole area which I'm going to cover today under this video presentation. Now, before we go to interaction analysis technique, which is given by Flender, I need to emphasize and understand what teaching means, because as a teacher, anybody who is a teacher, when is entering into the teaching profession, he needs to understand what teaching really means professionally. So teaching is basically a interaction, a communication. Like when I'm interacting with my students, that interaction is teaching, but this interaction simply is not teaching. When this interaction has some objective vis-a-vis my learners, then it like this objective, fulfilling of this objective in terms of students achievement is makes my interaction teaching process. And what could be that objective in terms of students presentation? That is, like when I intend to develop the cognitive domain of my students' personality. When I'm saying cognitive domain, means when they are developing their mind. When the child minds develop, it develops when I am, as teacher, I'm giving him or her the content, the theories, the principles, the mechanisms. Now, by getting the content of a subject, knowledge of a subject, his mind develops and he tries to recall, he tries to recognize, he tries to analyze, he tries to describe, he tries to apply, he tries to create. So when he's engaged into all these kind of activities, his mental activities or his mental domain develops. Second, when the objective of my interaction with my student is the development of competencies and skills. Any subject you teach, there are certain subject specific competencies and skills which the learner must acquire if he wants to be effective. So when teacher is developing or teacher is interacting with his learners with an objective of developing mind as well as skills associated with the subject. And lastly, and I think in my opinion the most importantly, that is affective domain, the conviction, the way I think, my attitude of my attitude, my beliefs, my conviction, all these things are affective domain. So when there is a interaction between teacher and taught, continuously and simultaneously developing the mind, the skills and the attitudes, then that interaction is known as teaching. uh, Interaction analysis, when there is one group of students and there is one party teacher, when there is communication between them, like teacher is communicating something to students and students are communicating something to the teacher. Probably this process is known as interaction. So interaction is not one way, it has to be two way. Even students communicate something, students interact. So anything which they are feeling, if you are assessing that, and on the basis of that assessment you again uh, make a conversation with your students, that analysis is interaction analysis. Classroom interaction refers to chain of events which occur one after the other, each occupying only a small segment of time, event being defined as shortest possible act that a trained observer can identify and record. So one thing which is very important from interaction analysis point of view, that we have to identify those small events which happen in classroom. For example, teacher is accepting the feelings of the students. Now what are the symptoms, what are the actions, what are the words which can really help us to understand that student is accepting the feelings of the students. Similarly, teacher asks something and students, they respond. So how do we know that they are responding something? So smaller thing, asking questions. What type of ask questions you are asking? You are asking open question, you are asking closed question. Observer must know all these kind of things. Similarly, you are delivering lecture. Now when you are delivering lecture, you need to know that what are the actions which can be, or what in what situation you can say, now this is the time when teacher is responding, or teacher is lecturing. So we have to identify different activities, and in this context, Flender has done a very beautiful work. He has identified some verbal categories of interaction. We'll talk about it in coming slides. This technique which was given by Flender, that is interaction category system. Flender's interaction category system is developed by Ned A. Flender in the year 1959 at University of Minnesota as a teacher training technique. And the assumptions of this technique were that there is a mutual relationship between teacher and the taught, which carries much importance in teaching and learning. This is first assumption. Second assumption, which is very important, is verbal behavior can be more observed more reliably in comparison to non-verbal behavior, and that is why most of the categories which Flender identifies in interaction, they are verbal categories. And he says that anything which you which you say always is corresponded by the gestures or non-verbal expressions of your face. So once you identify and quantify verbal, non-verbal is already taken care of. The classroom behavior can be modified by means of feedback. Now this is the third assumption which Flender made, that you can change the classroom behavior of a teacher by means of feedback if he knows that what is helping him to perform better and what is not helping him to perform better. Probably if he is getting this kind of feedback, he tends to improve his classroom behavior as a teacher. There are 10 categories which are given by Flender in interaction, in analyzing interaction analysis of a teacher, and he says there are broadly three categories under which there will be so many other subcategories. One is teacher talk. So there is one, like there will be lot many activities within this category, teacher talk. So one thing which happens in the classroom is the teacher is talking, and second thing which happens is student is talking. And there are some instances when neither the teacher nor the student talks, so there is silence, and that ordinarily is considered to be state of confusion. So these are the three broad categories which Flender brought out for analyzing verbal behavior of a teacher in a classroom. Teacher talk is divided further into two categories. One is direct or response category. Second is initiative behavior. One is direct, which is a response category of teacher talk, and there are four categories into it. One is accept feelings. Second is praises and encourages in the classroom. And third is using ideas of the pupils. And fourth category is ask questions. Then comes the other one, that is initiative of the teacher, in which you have fifth category as lecturing, sixth category as giving direction. Seventh category as criticizing and justifying authority. Now these are 7 categories under teacher talk. Then comes pupil talk. Under this, you have only 2 category. One is pupil talk response, and ninth is pupil talk initiative. So there are only 2 categories. One is that he responds to what teacher asks or responds, and second is that he himself initiates something in the classroom. So these two are quite comfortable to remember for a trainer also. One thing is that if teacher is asking something or teacher is giving some kind of expression to the student and student responds to that, so that is 8th category. And when teacher is teaching and abruptly student asks something, so it is his initiative, it is the initiative of the student to be a part of the interaction in the classroom. And third category is confusion. So that is the 10th stage, silence and confusion. So under pupil talk, you will have 7 categories. Under pupil talk, you will have 2 categories. And in silence, you have 1 category. Now, this teacher talk has got 2 aspects, response and initiative. We have already talked about it. Then comes student talk. Again, in student talk, there are 2 categories. One is responsive and second is initiative. And then is the last, that is student, that is silence. But in teacher talk, under response category, when teacher is responding, there are 3 subcategories again. And now this is very important for all the learners here. Now, when I am saying write one is accept feelings. Now, this one is not a serial number. One is a code given to accept feeling. Now, when the teacher will be recording the interaction, he doesn't have any time to write that, at this time teacher is accepting feelings, because under Flinders interaction analysis, the Flinders recommends that every 3 seconds there has to be one observation. So as a observer, I have to observe the teacher, and every 3 seconds what he is doing, I have to record that. So I have to be very prompt. So I can't write the sentences. So what I do is I have identified some behaviors of the teachers, and I have given them a code. So accept the feelings of the students is one code. Second is when the teacher is praises or encouraging the students, that means 2 code. Then when the teacher is accepting or using ideas of the pupil, right? For example, I ask something, student respond to that, and once the student respond, so what teacher does, teacher notes, yes, very good. Now this is accepting ideas. And sometimes what happens is the ideas which student gives, those ideas are explained to further make another point by the teacher. So he's using the ideas of the student to go to the next point, which is a part of his syllabus. So this is the third category under response of teacher. So teacher talk, response category, one is accept feelings, second is praises, encourages, third is accepting or using ideas of the students. And then under initiative category of teacher talk, you have 4 further categories. One is ask question. When teacher is asking question, it means 4th category, 4th code. Then he's lecturing, 5 code. When sometimes teacher gives some kind of reaction in the classroom, so if some student is doing some mischief in the classroom, and teacher sometimes snubs the child. Now all the students who are sitting, who are his classmates, they don't know why the teacher has punished the child. So what's happening, you are teaching, but all the students are thinking that you have done some injustice to his to their friend. So in that way you are teaching, but students are not responding or not receiving what you are teaching. So what you need to do is you have to give sometimes you give directions, and then when you exhibit some, like you punish the child, you exhibit some authority, and you have to justify that authority. Only when you justify and tell the truth to the students why you punished a particular child, their own classmate. So then probably the children, the students, they think that what teacher did is right, and they are open to learning. So they interact with you with open mind. So this is seventh category, and eighth category is the pupil response. The ninth category is pupil initiative, and the 10th category is silence and confusion. All interaction analysis is based on these 10 categories. And for any trainer, for any teacher who wants to analyze the interaction, must memorize these codes very fluently. Like, one is accepting feelings, second is praises or encourages, accepting or using ideas, fourth is asking question, fifth is lecturing, sixth is giving direction, seventh is justifying authority, eighth is people in response, ninth is people initiative, and 10th is silence. So once you memorize all these things, then only you will be able to record the observation of the teacher. How do we encode? Now, once we understand all this, so what we have to do is we have to go to some class of that pupil teacher whose interaction we want to analyze, and to give them a scientific and objective feedback. So for that, one thing which is important, encoding, is memorizing code. This is what I told you earlier also. Like, if you want to be a trainer, who wants to give and analyze, give observation and analyze the observation and give feedback to the pupil teacher, they must memorize codes. And once they memorize codes, they have to go to that concerned teacher and ask them, take permission from that teacher, that we are coming to your class to observe your class, we want to analyze your interaction. So that is to be done. And then, because every 3 seconds you have to make a observation, so what you do is you make one row with 20 columns. 20 column means every 3 seconds, if you are making one observation, it means 20 column. Once you complete 20 column, means you complete 1 minute. 20 into 3, 60 seconds, one row. Suppose you want to make 20 minutes observation of an interaction. So what you do is 20 columns, 20 rows. So you will observe 20 minutes. If you want to observe 25 minutes, so you will make a form which has 25 rows and 20 columns. So you will have 25 minutes observation. So this form should be ready with you, and 2 or 3 pencils should be ready with you, because you won't have time. If you are not able to, like something happens with one pencil, you should immediately pick the another one, because you don't have much time to do it. So forms and materials which are required should be ready with you. Then processor and encoding interaction. See, there are certain rules for encoding. Once you go in the classroom, you are sitting at a place where you can see the students also and teachers also. You have forms prepared with you. You have memorized codes. Now you start with observation. Now what happens is, when you are observing, sometimes there are two categories which are confusing sometimes. So what you have to do is, you have to take a decision that you will pick any category which is farthest from 5. If there is a confusion between 1 and 6, so you will take 1, because 1 is farthest from 5. This is a fundamental rule for encoding. Similarly, if there is one common category like 5. Now you are teacher is lecturing 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, and a stage comes when within one category 1 second has gone, but after 1 second the teacher has shifted to some rare category, maybe asking question, maybe using the ideas of the student. So in that situation, you should always try to ignore a very popular category and should try to put the rare category into this. So this is another ground rule which is helpful in it. And then comes decoding. Once you have made, for example, you plan to have 25 minutes of observation, you made a form 25 by 20, and you filled all the categories. So in a way, you'll have around 500 observations. Now you have 500 observation in that form, and when you decode that, now you have to bring that into 10 by 10 matrix. All that data which you have compiled has to be brought into 10 by 10 matrix. This is what is known as decoding. So what you do is, you try to first make essential thing that, make, for example, these are the observations which you made. Now, once you have made observations, so what you have to do, you have to make pairs. But before making pairs, what you'll do is you will add 110 in the start and 110 in the end. Because before you start the observation, you have silence, and when you end the conservation, again after that there is a silence. So if there are 500 categories, 500 observations, so you make one observation as 10 in the start, one observation at the end, so you have 502. Now 502 observations have to be paired, one with second, second with third, third with fourth, fourth with fifth, like that. So you make pairs like this, like this. Okay, now if you have, like, for example, you had 500 observations. First one, you add 10 in the start, you add 10 in the end, so you observations are 502. Now the total pairs would be 501. So that will be the total of 10 by 10 matrix, right? Now this is a matrix. Now you make a 10 by 10 matrix. So there is a category 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, and category on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now these 10 are nothing but 10 different events which Flender identified for itself. So every pair, for example, 1, 10 and 1, first pair would be 10 and 1. In the start we have 10, 10 and 1. So 10 and 1 would be 1 and 1 is this, like that, and you have it. So 10 and 1 is one category here, and all these pairs are plotted in terms of tallies in the different relevant aspects, right? So this is how we make a 10 by 10 matrix out of what we have observed and how we have decoded them, in terms of pairs, and then put it into 10 by 10 matrix. Now this is the basis for all further interpretation and giving feedback to the teacher. Now let me come to this. These were tallies, and these tallies are put into frequencies like this. So 1 has got 6 frequencies, 2 has got 6 frequencies, 3 has got 4, 4 has got 4, like that, 1 5 has got 1, like that. So these are the frequencies into different 10 by 10 matrix. Okay, and the total is 81, because observations here were 80. 10 was added in the front and 10 was added in the end, so became 82. Pairs became 81. All pairs are decoded in the table, so the total comes 81 here. Okay, now this is to be interpreted. Now when we are interpreting the 10 by 10 matrix, this interpretation is done in different ways. One is a global view of classroom interaction. So one category which we have is teacher talk category, and this teacher talk category means first 7 categories. One is accepting feelings. Second is accept praises and encourages. Third is using ideas of the pupils. Fourth is asking questions. Fifth is lecturing. Sixth is exhibiting authority and giving directions, and seventh is justifying authority. All these are teacher categories. So what we do is we add all the frequencies of 1 to 7 categories out of total. Now 9 plus 8 plus 6 plus 6 plus 20 plus 7 plus 7, all these are first total of first category. In column also, row also, you will find it's 9. Total of second category in row also and column also, it will be 8. So this is how you add them, and this addition is divided by the total frequency into 100. So 77.78% of the time was devoted by teacher talk. So out of the 100 minutes, suppose there is a 100-minute lecture, 77.78% time or minutes teacher was talking in the classroom. Of course, there was a variation in 7 different activities. Then second thing is student talk ratio. Student talk ratio is, student talk means 8th category response, 9th category initiative of the learner. So both the total of both the categories are added, divided by total into 100. So 6 is the total of 9th category and 3 is the total of 10th category. You add them, it comes 15 is divided by 81 into 100, that is 18.52. So out of the 100 minutes time, 18.52 minutes are devoted by student talk. And third is global one, silence ratio or confusion ratio, that is 10th category, and 10th category means 3 frequencies divided by 81 into 100. So this is 3.70, very less amount of confusion in the classroom. Now this was a global view. So overall, the teacher was dominated. Student participation was around 18.52, and silence was little less. So there was lack of there was no confusion in the classroom as such. There was a frequent interaction. Of course, teacher was dominating, and teacher has to dominate ultimately in the classroom, because the teacher is delivering content also, is asking question also, and so many other activities teacher is supposed to do, because he has to make a management of the classroom as well. But you will find there's relatively good ratio of pupil interaction also in the classroom. Now we go little deep into the interaction. And when we go the next level, we have another thing, that is teacher response ratio. You must have studied earlier, when we were talking about different categories and, division of the categories, there were 3 categories dealing with teacher response ratio. First, accept feelings. Second, encourages or praises. And third is using and accepting ideas of the students. So these 3 categories, out of the total categories of which are dealing with responses. For example, these 3 categories plus giving direction, it is again response, and then justifying authority. Now out of this, only 2 categories are left out, which are related to content. So total of 1 2 3 is divided by total of 1 2 3 plus 6 7 into 100. So this is something which is a index of teachers' tendency to react to ideas and feelings of the students. Teacher response ratio means it's a tendency of the teacher to react to the ideas and feelings of the student. It has got nothing to do with content, and that's why 2 categories of content, that is 4 and 5, asking questions and lecturing, they are not having any presence in this ratio. So this ratio is 62.16%. So teacher has the tendency to respond to ideas and feelings of the student. It's a good ratio here. Teacher question ratio. Now we are trying to see, what was the out of the total content, what was the ratio of the teacher or tendency of the teacher to ask questions. So 4th category has 6 frequency, and total of 4 and 5 content. Total content was including lecture and asking question is 26. So this ratio is around 23.07. So out of the total time devoted on content, 23.07% was a tendency to ask question. Again, it was a healthy kind of interaction in the classroom. Then is next is student initiative ratio. Now in comparison to the total teacher talk, what was the initiative, what was the ratio of the initiative of the teacher, of the student? So 9th category is around 6, and total of student talk is 6 and plus 3, 6 and 3 9. So 9, no, 9 plus 6 15. So 6 is divided by 15 is what is the student initiative. This is the student initiative. 6 is divided by 15 into 100. So approximately it will be 40%. So 40% initiative is quite good one. So 60 times he responded to the teacher, but 40 times he initiated also. He said something from his own time. Maybe he suggested some idea. Maybe he asked some question to the teacher. So this is how we have to interpret this. Then is content cross ratio. So content cross ratio is what is the emphasis of the content in the total talk. And you remember that 4 and 5 4 and 5 categories, when we sum, when we add all the fourth and all the frequencies in fourth and fifth row as well as column, fourth row, fifth row, fourth row, fifth column, all frequencies coming in that, if we sum that and divide it by the total frequency, that will be your content cross ratio. So that will tell us, that will describe us that to what extent the focus on discussion has been on subject matter. And next is steady state ratio. This is basically telling what is the tendency of sustaining a particular behavior, how frequently we are repeating our behavior. So repeating behavior comes from when first category is repeated, 1 and 1. What is the frequency in 1 and 1? 6. 2 and 2 is again 6. 3 and 3. When we take sum total of 1 1, 2 2, 3 3, 4 4, 5 5, 6 6, 7 7, 8 8, 9 9, 10 10. So when we total all these frequencies and is divide by total frequency, that is 81 into 100. So that is telling us the tendency to sustain a particular type of classroom communication. Then comes instantaneous teacher response ratio. Now this is very interesting to understand. What is the tendency of the teacher to respond immediately when the student stops talking? So now student stops talking means student talks with 8th and 9th. 8th and 9th categories are student talk category. That is why what we did here, we did summation of rows, summation of frequencies in rows 8th and 9th with 1 and 2 and 3 columns. So 8th and 9th row, and we have to sum up the frequencies which are coming in 1 2 3 columns, and we'll divide it by frequencies which are coming in 8th and 9th row, 1 2 3 6 7 columns. So that will be your instantaneous teacher response ratio. And the meaning of this instantaneous teacher response ratio is that it tells you the tendency of the teacher to praise or integrate pupils' idea into classroom discussion when pupils stop talking. Pupils stop talking. जैसे ही बच्चा बोलना बंद करता है, इमीडिएटली टीचर की टेंडेंसी क्या है कि वो बच्चे को रिस्पॉन्ड करता है, उसकी फीलिंग्स को एक्सेप्ट करता है, उसको एनकरेज करता है, अप्रिशिएट करता है और उसके आइडियाज को यूज करता है. Now this is what is known as instantaneous teacher response ratio. Similarly, you have instantaneous teacher question ratio. That means that what is the tendency of a teacher to ask questions immediately when the student stops talking. When the student stops talking. So you have to sum all the frequencies which are coming in 8th and 9th row and 4th column. Divide by frequencies in 8th and 9th row with 4 and 5 columns. So this is what, and you multiply it with 100, that becomes your instantaneous teacher question ratio. If in any classroom this ratio is little higher, that means the classroom is very, very violent, very thought-provoking. Why? Because here the student stops responding and teacher has a tendency to ask question. It means that student must have initiated something, must have given some idea, and now teacher wants to further probe how well he knows about that idea. If that is the kind of environment in the classroom, probably that classroom is very thought-provoking. So this is how you try to analyze the whole interaction of the classroom teacher in a very objective and scientific way. I feel that if of course it requires technical skills to observe, it requires technical skills to code and decode it, and it requires technical skills to interpret it also. But if one teacher is, or teacher educator is skilled into doing this, he can really make very scientific and objective feedback to his pupil teachers, and which can help to improve the teacher behaviors of our be it interns, or it can be used for our own benefit. We can ask our students to give feedback of our teaching following this procedure. It can be used to understand and reproduce it in the examination, but more importantly, this technique is very important for improving the behavior of a teacher. Thank you so much, and best of luck for your examinations.